25.8 million children and adults in the U.S. have diabetes. A quarter of them don't even know it yet. Experts estimate that by 2050, 1 out of every 3 adults will have the disease. Among people over the age of 65, 1 out of 4 already has diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is the most common form of diabetes. The good news? Type 2 diabetes is almost entirely preventable. Dietary modification has long been thought to play an important role in the prevention of type 2 diabetes. Whole grain intake has been linked to decreased risk of type 2 diabetes. As you look down the aisles at the grocery store, you will notice many whole grain food options such as whole grain pasta, whole grain cereal, whole grain bread, whole grain crackers, etc. We are told that whole grains are better for us than refined grains. That leaves many of us asking the question, what is it that makes whole grains better for us? The main components of whole grains are the outer bran layer, the inner germ layer, and the endosperm. Whole grains are high in fiber, vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients. Phytonutrients are chemicals found in plants that are associated with reduced risk of chronic diseases. Most of these substances are found in the bran and germ layers of the grain. During the refining of whole grains, most of the bran and germ are removed. Therefore, the refining process results in a substantial loss of fiber, vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients. Diabetes is a disease in which there are high levels of sugar in the blood. During digestion, food is broken down and a sugar called glucose is released. Glucose enters the bloodstream. Glucose is a source of energy for the body. Insulin is a hormone produced by the body to control blood sugar levels. When blood sugar levels are high, insulin removes glucose from the bloodstream and stores it in liver cells. When blood sugar levels are low, the stored glucose can be released from the liver and used for energy. Diabetes can be caused because the body doesn't produce enough insulin or because the body no longer responds to insulin, also known as insulin resistance. Compared with refined grain products, whole grain products are generally digested and absorbed slowly because of their physical form and their high content of fiber, thus stimulating the release of less insulin. There have been many studies done in order to test the benefits of whole grains. In a study performed by Lees et al., 1,625 subjects were recruited for examination of insulin sensitivity. Insulin sensitivity is measured by the responsiveness to glucose. The study was performed to assess the relationship between dietary intake of whole grain containing foods and insulin sensitivity. Insulin sensitivity was assessed by using frequently sampled intravenous glucose tolerance tests. The glucose tolerance test determines how quickly glucose is cleared from the blood. They found that whole grain intake was significantly associated with increase in insulin sensitivity. Magnesium and fiber explain most of the association of whole grains with insulin sensitivity. A second study, performed by Fung et al., followed 42,898 men for 12 years. Intakes of whole and refined grains were measured every 4 years by the use of food frequency questionnaires. The object of the study was to examine the association between whole and refined grain intake and the risk of type 2 diabetes. They observed an inverse association between long-term average whole grain intake and the incidence of type 2 diabetes. There was a 42% decrease in risk of diabetes when comparing the highest versus the lowest whole grain intake. However, they also found that intake of refined grains was not significantly associated with risk of type 2 diabetes. Through observational studies, researchers have linked whole grain intake with decreased risk of type 2 diabetes. The observed beneficial effects of whole grains may be due to their intact structure and their various beneficial components such as magnesium and fiber. However, the underlying mechanisms linking diet to observed health advantages remain unclear. Future research needs to examine the role of whole grain foods in disease prevention to gain a better understanding of their mechanisms of action.